Welcome to the Power of Nature podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Waldo. In this show, I talk about how nature and the natural world can communicate with us, how it can communicate directly and individually with each of us, and how this can create immeasurable benefits for us in our lives. I share stories of my experiences doing this as part of a regular and ongoing practice, and I talk to others about their experiences with the power of nature as well. So join me as we go on a journey of learning about the power of nature, how it can communicate directly with us, and the impact that it can have on our own lives. Welcome back to the Power of Nature podcast. In today's episode, I'm talking about the beauty and power and the soul of wolves. So, this is a topic that I wasn't expecting to discuss today, but it's interesting, as I often experience in this show. Sometimes, there are certain aspects of nature that I'm like, oh my gosh, I have had huge and long-standing kind of relationships with those aspects of nature communicating with me. And then there are other things that maybe don't seem like a lot until I start thinking about it or I start remembering. And so I was in the shower, and it was actually like a week ago. I had a thought about doing an episode on wolves, and then I kind of dismissed it. And then I was in the shower today, and I got like a really clear feeling, like, do an episode on wolves. And I was like, wolves are very powerful to me. I've had really strong and powerful engagements with them, which I will talk about in a couple of minutes. But I kind of feel like in the scheme of things that I kind of have had a multitude of experiences with, wolves aren't as much. Like, I haven't even done an episode on mountains, and mountains are, maybe I haven't talked about mountains yet because mountains are so huge. To me, they have affected me my entire life, and I don't even know how to even begin. It's like trying to talk about the ocean, it's like from one little tiny corner of it, maybe I haven't even known how to do that. But with wolves, it's like the impact in the relationship I've had with wolves has not been as many in multitude, at least I think, but the power of those experiences, the connection of those experiences have been very strong, powerful, and deep. So let me just kind of back up a little bit. So I don't think I was consciously really aware of a connection with wolves. Really, I don't really think at all. I'm trying to remember the first time. I actually think the first time I ever really even thought about wolves at all was when I was in the late 90s. I was snowboarding with a then boyfriend, not my husband when he was my boyfriend, but one prior to that. And we were in Lake Tahoe. Actually, we were going cross-country skiing. That's what we were doing. He was going to take me cross-country skiing. And we got out of his truck or my truck, whatever we were driving, and there were animals there that it was a group, and a group of some kind of, dog, wolf-like animals. And they were kind of like there was no person around, and they seemed to be wild. And, at that point, my understanding, because years later I looked into this, was that there hadn't been any wolves in California for a long time. But I really felt like I saw a wolf that day. I really felt like one of those animals in that pack felt to me like a wolf. And whether it was a wolf of some kind or a wolf hybrid or, just something that reminded me of a wolf, I feel like there's a way in which it kind of woke me up to the idea of wolves in a way, because I was both completely enamored and also scared. And then, I think they ran off, and we kind of went on with our day and whatever. And then no real interactions or awareness or thoughts at all about wolves until in the early 2000s, 2001, 2002, when I started studying shamanism. Now, I do not practice shamanism anymore, but one of the reasons, there was a particular version of shamanism that I studied, which was much more about utilizing, a connection with nature to understand how to communicate. I think that's kind of really where the interest was coming. I went on to actually be a shamanic practitioner and, work with people, but I ended up leaving the field. I personally do not subscribe to a lot of the practices anymore that are part of kind of the common current day shamanic view. But I still maintain, an incredible nature-based view. Like, to me, I think that my whole take on spirituality is incredibly nature-based. And my kind of foray in shamanism, I think, kind of helped me explore that, helped me learn about it. I, years later, kind of in the last maybe 4 or 5 years ago, discovered that I actually have Native American blood in me, which I did not know. I always kind of felt like it was there in my soul, but I had no acknowledgement of it. And then I discovered a cousin that was older that had done a bunch of history on our family lineage. And it actually turns out that I did have, and I do have, some Native American in Canada blood in me, confirmed, So it kind of like later helped me see, like, I kind of think there was something kind of in me that helped justify what I was always feeling. But the reason I'm talking about shamanism is because one of the things that you learn in shamanism early on is you learn about, a lot of people have heard about this stuff because shamanism has also become pretty commercialized these days. But back when I was studying it, it was starting to, or it was, but not to the extent that it is now. So shamanism, one of the things, if you've heard of like power animals or spirit guides, it's this idea that you connect with some kind of, spirit, if you will, that comes in the form of, an animal. To me, I actually believe now that spirit, if you will, isn't really kind of its own. I just believe that there is love and pure positive energy at the root of everything. And that is, what I would call our source or God, what Jesus represented. That's kind of my take. But no one has to subscribe to that same view to understand or think about how you can have an inner self and communicate with your inner self. Because I feel like that can transcend any kind of religious practices or spiritual view in a way, as long as you believe that there's something else. Otherwise, you probably wouldn't believe there's anything within you other than just, a mass of, cells and whatever, and that it's all random, which I don't believe. I don't believe it's random. And I don't believe that because of the experiences I've had in my life, not because of anything I've read in a book or what I mentally agreed to. It's literally based on my own experiences. So how does this tie into wolves? Well, it ties into wolves because my first power animal, as in my journey of studying shamanism, was a wolf. And that wolf is and has been an incredibly powerful symbol. I feel like I said, I practiced shamanism and then I stopped. And I kind of think that, like with a lot of things, I explore different things and then I listen to my inner self, and what resonates with me long-term stays with me, and what doesn't, I move on from. So I, did move on from shamanism, but the power of the wolf, even though I didn't, actively, think of myself as having this, power animal or spirit guide as a wolf anymore. What a wolf is and what a wolf represents to me is still very core to my life. And to me, it's like, it's a little hard to explain because I feel like even though I'm a very verbal person and a very visual person, and I kind of like to understand things, my connection to wolves is often something I don't even know how to put into words. It's like, it's so deep and so, like just inherent that it's hard to, kind of articulate. So for example, I have in my office, I have paintings that I have created, paintings that I've done. I have a large print of a horse that I love. And then I have 2 paintings by another artist. I think she's German. I can't remember. I mentioned her on my very first podcast because I had learned about her from one of my very first podcast listeners. And I bought from her a print, a watercolor print of a wolf. And that print sits in a very prominent location in my office. And that print of that wolf, it's like a print where the wolf is looking, kind of directly at me. And from the moment I saw it, that the artist herself, she seems to have a very similar, I don't know. I think we have similar perspectives on nature and our inner selves and animals and creativity. There's some similar things there. And so when I saw the painting that she had for sale of this wolf, I immediately felt a massive, massive resonance with it. I have not actually bought a painting or a print from anyone ever. We have a lot of art in our house, art that my sister has done or my mother-in-law has done because they're both artists. I now have a ton of art in my studio that is mine. But I worked as an interior designer for 8 years, so I selected art for my clients a lot, so I have a lot of experience buying art. My clients didn't really want to invest in original pieces on canvas kind of thing, more like prints, but I bought a lot of prints. And so this, the fact that I bought even a print for myself of this wolf from this artist is a really, really, really big deal. And the reason it's a really, really, really big deal is because I don't do it, I just don't do it. And this wolf image speaks to my soul. Literally, the wolf and the way it looks at me. And when I bought it, I think it was in 2021. I think I discovered the artist around 2019, 2008, sometime between 2018 and 2020. I learned about the artist from one of my very first podcast, one of the listeners who talked about liking this artist and, of course, liking my podcast and my work. And that's how I discovered this artist, from a podcast listener. And I really liked her stuff in general and kind of kept it in mind. And then I think it was in 2021, for some reason, I was drawn to look at her website or Etsy page or something. And I saw this picture of this wolf and it was just like no brainer. I had to have it. So I ordered a print of this wolf and I got it framed, and it's lived with me. And it actually has lived in a very prominent location since the time that I bought it. So for 3 years, we were living in our RV for a period of time while we were looking for a house, and I had it, there's not a lot of wall space in an RV, but I made space for this because that's how important my connection was to it. It is actually sitting up on my bookshelf, and I have tons of my own paintings that are, stacked up, and some to the front and some to the back. And this wolf print is to the front. Okay. It's like in a prominent location. When I sit down on my couch or when I sit at my desk, and I look away from the window, I see it. That's how important it is. And to me, I think the biggest thing, about the wolf, that the wolf has represented for me, is that of being a teacher. In my days of studying shamanism, the power animal, spirit guide of the wolf, the first one that I got, was about being my teacher, kind of like teaching me about being a student. And I've come to understand that it was really a student of myself. I thought it was a student of shamanism, but what I've come to understand, it was a student of listening to myself, really. That the wolf has always been about helping me become a student of listening to myself. And that the wolf has also helped me become a teacher of helping other people listen to themselves. So it's funny how doing this podcast can help me clarify things about nature. Because what I realized is that, the wolf's role, I feel like the wolf showing up that time in Lake Tahoe with that old boyfriend, whether it was a real wolf or a hybrid wolf or a wolf-looking dog, there were some things happening in my life in which I needed to kind of wake up to myself, and I hadn't been. And the wolf kind of appeared, and then that was it. And I did kind of wake up more to myself, a little bit kicking and screaming. Life kind of happened more to me to cause me to do it, but I did. Interestingly enough, in 2018, before I started my first podcast, I was really calling myself to wake up to listening to myself in a much more significant way. And I didn't really know how to do that. And I ended up going on a trip to Lake Tahoe, which I went to a lot anyway, with my family usually, to go snowboarding or to be in the snow. But in this case, I actually went in the spring by myself, and I had not done that before. And it was for my birthday, and it was like a really significant event because I hadn't been away from my kids overnight, aside from when my mother was really sick. My mother was really sick, and she died within a year of getting sick a number of years prior. And so I had not really been, kind of separated from them overnight. And it was like this big decision to go to Lake Tahoe by myself for my birthday, by myself, be able to have the freedom to like make any choice I wanted, which just seemed so rare then because so much was dictated by having, little kids and making choices and, kind of taking care of them and all that. But this was like, I'm going to go off on this trip for myself for the weekend. And I did. And what ended up happening is the one day I was driving, in Lake Tahoe, and I pulled out of this kind of park area, and there was, I really do believe this was a wolf that I saw. It ran right in front of my car, and then it ran kind of alongside my car. And now, at that point, I had known a lot about coyotes. I know what coyotes look like. This was not a coyote. I sense, because after this happened, after I saw this wolf, I was like, this can't be right. I don't think there are wolves in Tahoe, because I had since learned that there were not really wolves in California. So I was just like, my gosh, like, what was that? Just like a very wolf looking coyote, or what was that? But every part of my being screamed that it was a wolf, and it looked just like the wolf that, I had had as a, power animal years before in, studying shamanism. So the shamanism thing was like 2002, I think. And then this wolf sighting was 2018. I since learned that there were sightings of some actual wolves in that part of California. They were coming down, I think, from Oregon, or maybe they were from Nevada. I think they were coming down from Oregon into California again, and they had been spotted. So there's, actually like a really strong likelihood that what I did see was a wolf, which I was convinced it was. I also have one of the things that I'm just kind of talking about some of my experiences with wolves. I also have a, in the practice of connecting inward, one of the things that you do is you listen to a certain kind of soundtrack as the background. And in the background of what I listen to when I do my Connecting Inward sessions, Connecting Inward is a practice that I developed over many years for myself as a way of learning how to open up a channel of communication from my inner self to myself, like a way of understanding how to actively start doing that. And it's something that in 2020 I was called to teach other people. And one of the things that I do is when I teach people this, and sometimes when I do Connecting Inward sessions, I don't always have to listen to music these days, but it's not music, it's a soundtrack. One of the things that's on my soundtrack is a wolf. There are other sounds too, but there are also wolves. Additionally, I, have been, a follower of different Facebook pages that are wolf related. And I just, when they show up in my feed, it's like I could just sit and look at a wolf. I just sit and I stop, and I can just sit and listen to the howls of wolves. And it's not like I have a lot of explanation, or I haven't until now, about why. It's just the wolf and the wolves speak to my soul, literally speak to my soul. Just like this painting does, just like, this connection that I had with this wolf when I was studying shamanism way back when. And just like the wolf that I saw, when I was in Lake Tahoe, well, twice. Once with the ex-boyfriend, I saw I saw something that might have been a wolf that looked like it, and then again in 2018, what I really believe was a wolf. So this is my, it's not like I am a wolf volunteer. It's not like I go off with wolves all the time. It's not like, I've been out. I mean, I've seen wolves in the zoo and, stuff like that. But really, it's kind of my actual physical interactions with them have been pretty limited. And yet they have been they've had a huge impact on my life. And the thing, like I was starting to say, is to me, the wolf, I've come to understand, represents teaching and being a student and being a teacher. And it's really about, for me, the wolf being a teacher of, and teaching me to be a teacher and teaching me to be a student of understanding our own soul and inner self, our own, what is at the core of us, what is at the essence of us, what is that, and how do we listen to it, and how do we kind of align with that? Because I find that when we listen to our inner self and we align with our inner self, and I talk all about this in all of my podcasts, this is not a concept that I learned because someone told me and I thought it sounded good mentally. Like, I literally have experienced my life being different and changed in massively positive ways from doing this, from listening to myself and learning how to do it intentionally as a practice. And also, I've been just fascinated by and passionate about learning how other people do it as well. It's like this thing that I've always done that I never even really knew that I did, that I just have always done. It's like this thing, and the wolf represents to me the understanding of really kind of like sinking in with that. And it has something, there's something just so strong and powerful about wolves for me. Like, so many times when I hear like I was saying, sometimes when, there's like this one Facebook group, it's a beautiful wolf conservation group, I think out of New York, and they would post videos, and sometimes there would just be a video of a wolf just looking at the camera, and I literally just feel like that wolf is connecting into my soul, my spirit, my heart, like, and speaking some kind of language that goes beyond any kind of words that I could ever articulate right now. I don't even, and I'm a wordy person, clearly. I have a podcast. I talk all the freaking time, but this transcends that. And this is something that the wolf has always done for me. The wolf also is just such, almost like a reminder of who I really am and what I'm really about. And I found that the wolf kind of speaks to me to remind me, to call me back to an understanding of who I really am, and to allow myself to maybe face fears or uncertainties or doubts or restrictions or whatever, resistance, and just get in sync with my own inner self. Time and time again, the wolf has done that for me. Whether it's just like I could be in my office and I could be feeling kind of uncentered, and then I will just for some reason glance at that painting of that wolf, and it's like the painting of the wolf looking at me is like almost like a snap to. It's almost like it just snaps me back to myself, snaps me in sync with myself. It just feels so right. And when I hear wolves howling, like on those videos or whatever, it's the same thing. It's almost like some kind of primal thing, like in me, like the song of the wolves. I don't know how to translate. I don't translate it into words. But there is something about it that speaks to some completely nonverbal part of me. And it is really powerful. And it has always been. So to me, the wolf is about a teacher. Interestingly enough, I wrote a novel in 2008 when I was pregnant with my oldest son. I have not published it to date, but a wolf was one of a significant character in that novel as well. There were lots of different characters, but the wolf played an important role as well. So over and over and over again, what I've experienced is this, the only way I can describe it is like primal, completely like I can't even tie together logic of it, like the power of the significance of what I feel to wolves and how they speak to me, and the number of interactions I have with them kind of don't seem to match up. It's like there's just this like incredible strength and intensity. Now I have lots of different animals and aspects of nature that I have incredibly strong kind of connections with and communication with. Like, I have 2 podcasts about horses, so clearly horses are really, really important to me. Horses play a different role though than a wolf. There's something very different about the horse. The horses kind of, to me, feel like they're about like day-to-day life and understanding, like, I don't know, understanding navigating the world with people and myself and all of that. But there's something about the wolf that is completely, it's almost like some deep part of myself that hasn't even come to my own, like I haven't even really unearthed it yet, if you will. It hasn't. All of my connection with the wolf has not come to my own awareness yet, but I know it's incredibly powerful. And I know other people feel this way about wolves too. I know there are other people, different people feel this way about different animals, where it's just like, you just have a passion for it. You just don't even it's just like, you don't even know why or how or whatever, for sure. But I know there are people that feel this way about wolves as well. And I think there's something just so, primal. I love dogs. I love our dogs. We have 2 dogs. My son has a dog and I have my own dog. And I love our dogs, but there is something very different about a wolf. Now, if I were to see a wolf out in the wild, to say that I would not be scared is a complete lie. I would be scared because, wolves, I don't know. I feel like I still have this kind of perspective. Like in the media, it's always, in movies, it's always like, wolves are going to attack you and wolves or whatever. So I have this kind of complex relationship with wolves. But I think it's really one based on respect and acknowledgement that, a wild creature experiences benefits by being wild and by being, protective really of its wildness, because dogs are domesticated and they're very different in so many ways from wolves in terms of what they do. Anyway, at some point there's a person that I would love to speak to about their interactions with wolves. They have possibly a very similar experience with wolves, or if not similar, something that I think would be interesting to, a perspective that would be interesting to explore. And so I am hoping to do an interview with them at some point in the future about wolves. I'm really fascinated to hear about other people's connections with wolves. In fact, if you have a strong connection with wolves, reach out to me. hello@michellewaldo.com, MICHELLEWALDO.com, and let me know. I would love to learn more about why wolves affect me and many of us, so much, because I know that they have been incredibly powerful forces in my life over and over and over again, but not as much the multitude of times as much as in the times that I've had that kind of connection. It's been really deep and really, really, really strong and powerful. So, that's what I wanted to talk about in today's episode, an ode to the wolf. And I'm going to leave it at that until the next time. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of the Power of Nature podcast. To learn more about me and my other offerings, you can visit my website at michellewaldo.com. That's MICHELLEWALDO.com.